I've spent a good part of the last 21 years talking about the crimes of illegal aliens. You know them. They were rattled off by President Donald Trump back when he was a candidate. There's rape, there's robbery, there's murder, beyond all the usual crimes of entering illegally, identifying yourself illegally, etc. Ann Coulter, who's the syndicated columnist and best-selling author most recently of In Trump We Trust, E Pluribus Awesome, has written a bang-up column about an illegal alien crime that doesn't get much talk because it is so difficult to talk about. It's disgusting to think about what is being done to people in our country. Ann, welcome back to the program.
Thank you. Good to be here, Lars.
So let's end all the mystery. The crime you're talking about is elder rape, which just those two words alone make you cringe.
Yes, it's a rough column to read if you don't have a strong stomach, but I don't think it helps to not talk about what's going on. They're pretty shocking cases, and quite a number of them just over the last few years. Something that really isn't a Native American habit. As I've said many times on your show, we're not only bringing in immigrants who need lots of government assistance and commit lots of crimes well beyond the native rate, contrary to nonsense that you'll read that isn't backed up. John Lott has already done some studies on this, but completely different kinds of crimes. You would think the fact that so many of them, I mean, forget the things like, Medicare fraud, Medicaid fraud, credit card fraud, food stamp fraud, the drunk driving, far more prevalent in our immigrant friends. I mean, some portion of them, obviously, not all of them, but a much larger portion are engaging in these sorts of crimes. But a lot of crimes that go so much to America's identity of treating all people the same, and particularly women. I've covered quite a lot of the child rape numbers, particularly from south of the border, but actually from all third world cultures. You just don't have the same respect for women in cultures outside of the Anglo-Saxon world. It can be learned, it can be taught. It isn't endemic to all third worlders, but we are bringing in so many, as I've said many times. That's why the main anti-immigration group in the country isn't called, Immigrants Suck. It's called Numbers USA. We are bringing in such enormous numbers. It is going to change the culture. And going beyond the stories in the column, it's always been something noticeable about America, even more so than our mother country, Britain, how rape was considered, was something de Tocqueville wrote about. Rape was considered in colonial America a crime on the order of murder, which was somewhat unusual even back then. The respect that was given to women and how women were on a pedestal, to say nothing of children and the elderly generally. Forget male or female, the elderly. This is something we're going to lose. And even though these are ugly stories, I think you have to grit your teeth and read it and see what this country is going to become if we don't put a major break on all immigration, legal, illegal. Just cut it off for a while. We need to assimilate the millions we've brought in to our culture because our culture is superior.
Ann's been an attorney for a long time, but let me throw something out at you. When I first became a reporter, I'd talk to prosecutors about rape, and at some point I'd say, I don't understand this. This 20-year-old kid rapes a 70 or 80-year-old woman. And he would say, Lars, prosecutors I knew would say, Lars, rape is not, people who don't rape people tend to think of rape as a sexual crime, that, you're raping somebody you're sexually attracted to. Rape is a violent crime that in many cases is designed to fulfill the rapist by degrading in the most awful way a human being. So it isn't even usually about sexual attraction. It's about something entirely different, which is why you've detailed stories of 19-year-olds who go out and rape a 90-year-old woman or 93-year-old woman. And that where is this coming from? Is it coming from the culture? Yeah, because you and I have talked about the often degrading culture that comes in with people who are coming into the country illegally, and as you say, don't assimilate to the ideas and the norms and the morals and all of Americans.
Yes, and bringing in these enormous numbers, millions and millions of them, that does allow different cultures to not even be faced with any risk of assimilation. They're living in their own communities with street signs in their own languages. I mean, in a few of these cases, immigrants who had been here for many years, we have to have a court translator. For the trial, what are they doing working in a nursing home if they can't speak English? But my point on that is that the numbers are so large. We have little ghettos of it's not even like an Hispanic community. It's a Somali community or Mexican community, Guatemalan community. The numbers are just overwhelming right now. I tend to think, I mean, this is just impressionistic, that to the extent we had the elder rape cases among the native-born, it's more along the lines of what you're talking about. Those cases tended to be just pure torture and savagery. My sense from an awful lot of these immigrant rape cases is, no, it's just a very primitive view of sex, and any place they can get it, and a primitive view of women, as you know, is sort of well known, at least among one group of our new immigrants, the infidel whores. But it seems to be much more sex-based with the immigrants, and just absolutely no respect for women.
So it's just a physical release, and wherever I can get it, I'll get it. And you target the person who's the most vulnerable. So a 25-year-old woman might be able to fight back, but the 93-year-old woman is not going to be capable of much.
Right, and I remember soon after 9/11, I asked one of my Muslim friends why I couldn't get a fatwa. And I accused these people of being lazy. They weren't reading my stuff. And he said, no, you don't understand. As far as they're concerned, you're a woman. You're beneath a dog. That gives you some idea of, some of the cultures coming in here. We're American women in the Anglo-Saxon world. They may love to complain about the wolf whistles from construction workers. In about 20 years, they're going to look back and say, we never had it so good.
Unfortunately. The column is very much readable, and it's enjoyable. I mean, although tough to read, you're right. Ann, thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Good to talk to you, Lars. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am. That's Ann Coulter with us, who does write a fantastic column.